So this is the tap. This is the hold on now. Pause. Welcome back to another episode of For Good Brothers. I am Stefan. I got Kevin, Fred, Lavelle, and as you can see, we got two special guests with us. So, guest number one, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Whitney.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet everyone. And who are you, lovely lady?
I am Mya Miller.
That's all you are?
Yeah, I'm about to say, let's get that right before we keep going.
That's Stefan's wife.
I am Stefan's better half.
Let people know. I don't want no random comments.
Yes.
Who's that with hat on? None of your damn business. That's what that is.
We don't want none of that in our messages.
So now that we have all the logistics accurate, right? and we understand that I am driving the ship today.
That's right.
Amen.
I'm driving the ship today. Amen. We want to continue the conversation about forgiveness. And last week we talked about what was unforgivable, but we also wanted to bring in a different female point of view, and we didn't want to have just one, but two different points of view. So today we're going to pick up with what's unforgivable in a relationship. Relationship being male-female. We kind of talked about friendship relationships. Now it's really going to get deep. So I think I want to start with Fred, since you was out in the church. So for you,
Fred.
what is that deal breaker? What is unforgivable in a relationship?
I said betrayal last week in general in a relationship, so I would honestly stay with the same thing. I mean, naturally somebody cheating on you, but I think in my experience I haven't had to deal with that. At least I don't think. But no, it would still be betrayal and loyalty though.
So betrayal and loyalty.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take it a little deeper, and we're gonna do a random out the box. So physical or emotional cheating, no response, just an answer. Which one is worse?
Emotional.
Physical or emotional cheating, which one is worse?
All the flashes of his wife start popping in. She did. Either one of y'all. I gotta pick either one.
You gotta pick either one.
That's tough.
Oh Lord. Physical.
Physical or emotional. Now y'all, two people don't win in front of y'all. The question didn't change. Come on.
I
But
know.
it's still challenging.
I mean, it is because it's two different things. I think it depends on the situation.
Which one is worse? No commentary. Just got picked.
I think emotional because that will continue.
Emotional.
I would definitely go emotional.
Going emotional.
Emotional for sure.
Emotional. I agree with emotional. So, this.
Well, I'm the only physical one. It's all right. It's all right.
So.
Yep, there it is.
But that I think that's different from you because of your background and how the vetting process of your marriage was. So physicality carries different weight from a spiritual standpoint because of how y'all entered it.
I would like to.
You tapping in?
Yeah, disagree. Because I don't know what. Yeah, respectfully disagree. Because I don't know what you meant, Kevin. You said.
So what I mean by that is like.
You talking about the veil?
I'm talking specifically about Lavelle.
Yeah.
Like how the marriage came to be. So like no physical contact. Like they were each other's first, plural first. So like when you talk about the physical aspect of that seems more intrusive and invasive to him.
Yeah.
Because the emotional aspect of they had that first before they had the physical.
Right. I got you.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does.
So you.
That's a hard time.
So you picked emotional. So what's from Kevin's perspective, why is it emotional?
Because I think we talk about emotionally, that is a part of yourself that you give to someone that you don't give everybody else. Not that people just out here smashing, but some people are. I feel like it's in some instances it's easier to give yourself to someone physically versus having that transparent conversation like, hey, let me sit down with you. I want you to know about me in its entirety. The physical aspect or sex or intercourse is just one aspect of a person. When we talk about giving yourself emotionally, that's a different animal. And I think that would be a bigger form of betrayal than the physical. And also like physical, the physical aspect of it, I think is more norm, but people don't talk about the emotional side of it as much.
So Whitney,
Bingo, though,
bingo.
because even when you still give yourself physically to someone, there's still some level of emotion with
Yeah.
them.
Absolutely.
So, I
we-
see what
Some
you're saying.
people,
Some
some
people would disagree with that though.
So we were both wanting to say both, kind of in a
Yes,
sense.
I want to
but-
say both.
But we're forced in this
We
box.
definitely are.
Yeah.
So Whitney, for
With an F.
for the people who going against the grain and who do not know how to play the game, since you're both as well. So we talked
Both to a degree. I'll say that. I'm sorry.
Whitney.
I know. I'm just saying.
It's not your turn. It's not your turn.
I'm sorry, Whitney.
No, you fine. You can go.
So
Oh, it's
Whitney, what is your? So it's easier. So is it safe to say you're saying it's easier to forgive physical stepping out or cheating or physical discretion than it is to give emotional?
I wouldn't say it's easier emotionally, because if you're lacking the emotional side in your relationship, it starts with small conversations. And so then they progress, and then they always say whatever your thoughts are, those are the beginning forms of your actions. So it's easier once you get attached emotionally to some degree to just go ahead and let the physical happen. Because I ain't never seen a headless body walk around. So wherever the mind is, the body going.
Mighty.
Yeah, not a physical headless body, but figuratively. There's a lot of that.
So tell me why it's easier for you to forgive physical cheating than it is for you to give emotional,
Because it lingers.
because it lingers.
Yeah, you can switch body to body. He can cheat with this girl, that man, whoever, that animal, whatever. It's a lot of that going around, but it's the emotional is hard to detach from. So if he was emotionally invested into that person, you can't just cut that off like you could just a smash and dash.
Got it.
So I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're talking about forgiveness of a spouse in a relationship or a dating relationship. But is it really solely that I need to forgive you, but more so talk about how we got there? So if you emotionally went to go cheat or you physically went to go cheat, what drove you there? Because typically in most cases, if someone is going outside of the box to go get something, it's because they're not getting something at home. And if I told you at home that, hey, these are things that fill my cup and you refuse to act on it, am I really looking for your forgiveness, or you left the door open?
I think it's a combination of like the forgiveness piece along with an accountability piece. Hey, I didn't, but that also starts with having a tough conversation.
Absolutely.
Which again, we talk about people don't do.
Yeah, there's never a good time to have a tough conversation. There's always good posture. So it's like, hey, versus like stepping outside of that, hey, I feel like this is lacking with us. This is what I need from you. And it may not be anything physical. Like I said, the physicality is just a byproduct of what you're seeking emotionally sometimes. So like when I'm in this type of mood, this is what I need from you. Sometimes I need you to listen and not talk, or listen to understand versus listening to respond. Those are all real things. So sometimes all it takes for you to step outside of your relationship is find someone that's a good listener, and that's all you need.
Well, see, I think that goes to what we talked about before, that it's all about, even in the conversation, is how you approach the conversation. If you are having an issue at home with that spouse, significant other, right? But you start to talk to them and you're just saying you, and it's never breaking it down saying, well, this is how I personally feel when this is happening, or when you're doing this, or like you said, these are the things that I need to fill my cup, right? reflecting that back on you and then letting that person see, like, I'm not trying to beat you over the head. Now, I'm not, that can be difficult, but at the same time, it's genuine conversation though. I think that's the issue. People don't know
So I
how
have a
to
question.
communicate.
With you being in a relationship with that person, at what point do they stop learning you? Because there's certain things that if you're really into a person, you learn them. You learn their behaviors, you learn what turns them off, what turns them on. They off pattern, have a pattern. Like, you really get to know them. So for you to have that tough conversation, it's a disconnect somewhere.
Yeah, but
And real quick,
Tap in.
because
I
I'm tired.
was right here.
And then, wait a minute.
Because, I mean, this forgiveness, I think it starts from the root because people get lazy in relationships. We were just talking about that over there. That even cheating can start because you won't keep up your physical appearance. When you started to date me, when you started to court me, there was something that you felt that you needed to put on your good cologne, your nice cardies, and you was, but now you got me.
You have
You-
good cardies.
You know, he did have on his
Yeah.
nice. But then when you get married, you get comfortable, you have children, life happens. Then the initiative then begins to lack, and so then you get mad. Yeah, I got you. When you know, so it's you have to, because people grow and they change.
They constantly evolve.
So as you're
when
saying-
do you lose the friendship in the
But
relationship?
you have to, and that's why you have to keep at it. You got to constantly date. You got to constantly, because when I met Steph, wait a minute.
I'm with you. Go ahead. No, you go ahead. I'm with you.
When I met
Get my
Stefan,
hands out here.
I was young, 18, 19 years old. I'll be 41. So I'm not the same person that I was
Right.
then. I've changed. Life has happened. Had a child, working and pastoring the church. So my cup is going to be different. It's up to us to understand the ingredients of the cup so it can get filled.
Hold on. I got you right here.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Keep that word.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
on
right
our
there.
t-shirts. I'm there.
Right.
Yeah, I got stuff. Cause Whitney said something, I was like, oh, triggered.
Oh, Jesus.
It was, when do you stop learning your partner?
Mhm.
The answer should be never. Should
Exactly.
be
Yes.
a constant process.
Yes.
But there's a huge, to me, I won't speak for the group, to me, there's a huge accountability on the man to continue to be part of the learning process, but also for the woman not only to be part of that learning process, but being consistent in that. I think what happens, especially in marriages, as someone who is an observer of
Okay, so I was getting ready to
As
say.
Yeah,
so
as
nobody
someone-
never
as
did
someone-
that.
as someone that's an
Okay,
observer.
Okay, I'm glad you
Just to be
read
clear,
that.
yeah.
Okay, go
is
ahead.
that you don't get spoiled by consistency. It's almost like, hey, we did just enough to get to this point, and now all that learning can stop because now we're here. And this marriage is binding. We don't need to learn nothing else. Now, I'm not saying that's the case for everybody. I'm saying
No.
there's a part of that where you have to, even though there's a level of comfortability, to continue to learn. I feel like when you get too comfortable, then that's when things start to go around.
So that's when you get the comfort weight. That's when you get to
Oh, the
complacency.
happy weight they call it.
Yeah, happy weight, comfort weight. That's when complacency starts. That's when meals stop getting cooked, home cooked meals. Whitney forgets she know how to cook.
Oh no, I don't forget.
You just don't.
Because the
Just
same
don't
way
do
that
it.
I get them is the same way I got to keep them.
But Todd-
that's Whitney turn. Whitney
Okay.
turn. Whitney turn. Whitney up. Whitney up.
We need a buzzer.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
Whitney up. What was your thoughts?
On what?
You had a point.
Because
I'll come
he-
back to
no,
you.
I was
Yeah.
just saying that
He wants
I
this point to
don't,
be.
because I've never been married.
Mhm.
I've never been engaged, so I can't speak upon that aspect, but I can say for me how I would want my marriage to go is I don't ever want to stop dating him when I do get married. I don't ever want to stop cooking home cooked meals because they always say what you won't do is somebody out there waiting to do that because they know he's unavailable and you have those kind of praise. So for me, what I did to get him, just like what y'all do to get us, needs to continue and to grow, not just continue at that same minimum level it's different levels to everything. So I don't want to ever stop learning my best friend, because that's who initially I want to marry. I want you to be my boyfriend so we can have fun, but I want you to protect me as a man, my man, and cover me as my husband, because I would do the same. So it's different.
So I
things.
agree with that, and I
Fred
also
sitting on something.
I
got you, Fred.
I also think so. I know where he's going because I know you. I know you. So what he's saying is, so we were sitting on the couch one day, and he said, I just want my wife to cook and clean. And while that was cute at 18, I am a director, and I direct a number of teams at work. I'm a senior pastor. So what I could flap a jack at 18, 19, 20, I can't do that. But I would pay for a cook to come and do that. There are certain things that I will do as a wife that I can't, because my time, because as you're talking about growing, my responsibilities, yes, you are a main responsibility, but as my spouse, as my husband, you should also see the things that I'm also responsible for. And the timing, because his grandmother stayed at home and she was a stay-at-home mom, and that was her full-time job. This ain't that. So you can't take a formula and put it into a new age wife like this. It just ain't gonna work, so it's just those kind of things that I think in a marriage you have to be flexible in a marriage, how we started we can still be. I do think it's important to date, because that's one of the things that's important for me and Stefan with our crazy schedules, but you have to be flexible. I'm not gonna be behind the kitchen, because my time that I'm responsible for a lot, I may cook, but it may not be 5 days a week.
And there's a level of success that your resources, like you can pay for certain resources.
Damn.
It's 7 days a week, just in case.
I know, but I won't cook 7 days. I'm just telling you, I can't do 5. Now I'll pay for somebody to come cook for you.
Fred been sitting on something.
Go ahead,
I'm gonna lay it back, so I look forward to it. Go ahead, Fred.
Yeah. So, no, I'm going back to what my sister said. So, in the friendship part of it, that's where the betrayal and loyalty, I'm not gonna get wordy today, but reality of it is that first and foremost, you have to realize, were you ever friends?
That's it.
I'll leave it at that.
Some people are clearly, you were never friends.
Right.
You were never friends.
You were their friend, and they just wasn't yours.
Right. Or I'll just be open about it and say, well, we can just look at it from multiple sides and say that if I'm a friend, but you don't really know what that looks like because it's never really been shown to you. Or if it has, you just didn't pick it up when it got put down.
Or you know how to be a friend. Me and Stefan, I think that we were friends. Stefan was trying to play hard to keep. But I think we were friends. We talked, and I do think friendship is important. But if you don't know how to be a friend, you can't be a friend in a marriage.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that the sustainability of a marriage also depends on the spirituality of the marriage as well. Because some people get married for the wedding and not for the marriage.
Right.
They get married for the look, but not the work that goes into it.
So can I ask you a question? Because we said what is unforgivable, right? What's a deal breaker in a relationship? I'm asking because personally, I'm just asking because in my brain I'm ready to go somewhere.
Is a deal breaker something that's unforgivable?
Like deal breakers in a relationship, in a marriage.
Are you asking me or just everybody?
Everybody. So,
doesn't that just depend on where you at though?
In-laws, family members being involved, all those kind of things. Like,
I think Stefan and I talked about this earlier. I think consistent lying is a deal breaker because I will never know when you're telling the truth. But I think that everything else, and if you kill somebody, I'm not gonna be sitting in trial with you if you kill somebody.
Law says you're not going to take the fact that it's true.
And what if it's in defense of your family?
Okay, if it was in defense, but if he out shooting somebody,
well, that's different.
I'm not gonna do that.
Yeah, what's your
So I just think that because again, from a biblical perspective, it's to death do you part. So y'all got to work yourselves through that, and things. And I get it, things happen, but is marriage is like a clock. You start at 12, you may get down to 6, and then you have to work yourself back up to 12. And that may be you lose a job. That may be they had a baby. It can be, but again, it's what the marriage can tolerate. I also think it's what you all can tolerate to work through, and if you love the person that much. But consistent lying is a deal breaker for me.
From a single perspective, because I've never been married, like I said, it would be lying. And the reason why I say lie is because when I give you myself, I'm transparent. So I take the form of water. I want to relate myself to water because you can see through it. Like, it molds, it's flexible, it's fluent. Water is very strong when it has to be, even though it doesn't want to be. But when you lie to me, you're pouring lie on me, L-Y-E. So when lie and water mix, it's a chemical, it's acid. You're killing me. And the longer I sit in it, the longer, it's just a slow death. Who want to die that slow?
Let me ask you a question.
Me, I can't do.
So should you give yourself completely, fully? Are you dating with intention to marry? Or are you dating to have a good time? Because if you're dating with intention to marry, I can see why you give yourself. But if you're just dating someone and you have not gotten to that point, then I don't believe you should give that much of yourself, because
I don't. When I finally do date, I date with the intent of marriage. I don't just, because anybody who I'm just having a good time with, you're not going to see that side of me anyway.
I think that goes
we're
back
going
to
to call, that's what time we're going to hook up, and I see you.
I think that goes back to those transparent conversations, though, which is why I feel like the courting, dating process, all of that should be, of course, there's a spiritual component, but there's a business component to that too. I feel when you're courting. So if you're having that discussion,
business component?
The business component. So like if you're courting somebody and then y'all going full transactions, yeah, it's like no, not transactional, but like hey,
what we talking about?
Because time is important. You don't want to waste it, right? Hey, here's what I'm looking for. Here's what I want. Here's where I want to be. How does this align with where you want to be? How can we do this together? Here are some deal breakers for me. X, Y, and Z. If those things aren't in alignment, there's nothing else for y'all to talk about. So when you're having those conversations up front, like, hey, I'm dating you with the intention to be married. Is that something that's on your menu? Because if not, we don't need to move forward.
I agree.
But also, like, I don't think people take marriage seriously enough from a spiritual standpoint. But if you start talking about business, that gets real for them. Hey, if this doesn't work, this is what. Yep, go ahead.
So
if
if people don't take it serious from a spiritual perspective, so let me ask you this: are these two people both Christians?
I think it's healthy to have at least one person that is to help somebody else along on that journey if they're willing to do that.
Right, because the Bible says don't go unevenly yoked, and that's when you find a lot of problems. So I'm saying from a spiritual perspective, I do think a man who's courting a woman, he should say with the intentions on whether or not I plan on marrying you. Because I think that we would have less turmoil if we say up front, I don't have any intentions on marrying you. So then it's up to both parties from a business perspective if they want to carry it on. What's happening is folks in relationships, they're not honest about their intentions. And so then you have emotion that comes in, then you have sexual that comes in, and then in some cases you have a baby that comes in, and now they're the product because you all were not transparent in that relationship. Now they have to suffer.
And I think a lot of people can't handle those type of conversations.
Then they shouldn't handle it. They shouldn't be dating.
Whether it's a man or a woman, like, hey, I'm not looking for this. This is what I'm looking for. Can you handle it? It's like
it's most men that can't be like completely honest. Ooh. I'm not saying all men. I'm just saying.
I think it's both.
I absolutely think it's both.
I think it's both. You know why I think it's both? Because this is why I think it's both. Because social media plays a lot in relationships today. There are people who say relationship goals, but they know nothing about these celebrities' relationship. All they see is the picture of it. And so I think it's both that women may want sometimes, again, that's why courting is important. She may be wanting to seek somebody to give her attention because her father didn't give her attention. or she may be seeking because she was promiscuous and she has to be the center of attention. Or he didn't have the mother figure, so you want me to sit at home and flip flapjacks because your mother wasn't present, so you're looking for a mother, not a wife. So I just think that you have to be transparent in how and why you're dating, because I do think on both, women are not always honest as well. You know, social media again, what's the new thing? Sneaky link.
Oh, sneaky link.
So you got this sneaky link. I know, we too saved, but I got to stay in the trenches sometime and come back out. Okay, all right. But but it's the sneaky link. It's all of these extra layers from social media that waters into the relationship, that it just contaminates. I preached on one time about Valentine's Day. I said we cannot focus on what you see online.
Right.
Your husband may not bring you roses home, but he may keep your house clean and put gas in your car and shovel that. So we cannot compare.
People are very caught up in the superficiality.
That's it.
Absolutely.
So then that would make the person, they're a watered down person. It means they have no identity of who they really are.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're looking
It's a
for-
created player.
Oh, okay.
I
They're
was waiting for
looking
you to say it.
They're looking for an identity through what they see on the internet, because that's what, instead of it's coming from the home, everybody's like this. So that is what they're being taught.
Right.
This is what's right. This is what's good. Now, LaBelle, as the third married person in the room, you've been real quiet. This side of the room, they've been taking up the whole conversation. So I got to come to you. So I'm gonna ask you about this.
I mean, we're guys.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
LaBelle has the floor. So, how did you go about courting your wife? Since that was something that the women talked about.
Well, she actually.
She came on to you. I'll leave that same light, player. Go ahead.
She
man.
did, yeah, she did. She noticed me before I noticed her.
Don't even try.
It happened like this
Tell the
sometimes.
truth.
I mean, she did.
Yeah, you are.
I
Bless
did not
her.
like you
Bless her.
before I met you. When I met you.
It's about
But you made a comment that I came after you. No, sir. Let's be clear. I did not like you when I
You
first
were-
met you.
You don't
She
want
like
to
you
do that.
now.
You don't want to do that, right?
No, we're not gonna do the
You
LaBelle.
don't want to do that, right?
LaBelle.
The first day on the fast, this is where we going. Oh, God.
LaBelle, what we talking about? Which way
Could Whitney know the answer?
No,
I don't know nothing.
LaBelle talking.
I don't want to intrude.
We need you to.
We need you to
We need you
They
to.
say stay in your lane, stay your own speed, won't be no traffic.
So,
Huh?
no, with my
Virtual
wife
care.
and I, when it came to courting, it was simple. She was like, because as Kevin mentioned earlier, we were both each other's first. That was very important to both of us. Now, I had other girlfriends in my past, but I was her first boyfriend and her first husband, and hopefully last as well. So she had already had, when it came to the courting, we talked for a year and a half before we even said this is a couple thing. And in that year and a half, it was, as soon as she knew and we both realized we were feeling each other, it was, okay, here's the conversation. I only date to marry, and I'm only looking for that one.
That's what I like.
And it took me a little surprise. I was like, oh, okay. But I was in a place too. I'm looking to marry too. But we also had that conversation on here's our goals. My goal is I need to graduate college because we met in college. I need to graduate college, have my own place, have a little money in the bank, just to be safe. Those are my first three things before we even think about marriage. And she says she respects that. And then in her case, it was, I want to graduate. And that was really it. Really about just graduating. But in that, she said, you're going to meet my family. You're going to get to know my family. And I need to see how your family works with me. And also, I am married to a Caucasian woman. And eventually down the road, we'll get to interracial stuff. So there was already that cultural barrier right there. So we had to see if we was gonna take that. But in that year and a half of just courting, we learned about each other. We had those crucial conversations. How are we gonna raise our children? My wife not only is white, but she was homeschooled from the country. And her mom was a stay-at-home mom. I grew up with a single mother. She worked and we were fine. And she was like, I'm thinking about if we have kids, I might want to be a stay-at-home mom. So it was all of those crucial conversations
At
that
the
we
beginning.
had in the beginning.
At the beginning, those conversations
while we were
happened.
courting. So that's kind of how she
Not 2 years
she
down there,
courted-
it's like, oh, I know that was one.
But that's kind of how we courted each other. But it was, and it was just the families too, because I don't care how much great you are also a representation of your family. And if your family is a mess, it might not necessarily be a deal breaker, but it's something that's going to question me, because we also have these things as generational curses, trauma and stuff, because then if we're good 5 years down the road, that 6th year, something happens and you're this whole different person. It could be related to your family ties or your family of something that they might have not handled, and I might not be able to do that. So I need to see how your family is too. And also the biggest thing was spiritually too. That was the biggest thing. So we had to make sure all of that was in sync, and of course we still had our speed bumps, but we made it.
I wanted to say, when you made your comment about the fact that it was in the beginning, so I'm not trying to like excuse it, but I think, in my opinion, listening to Lavelle, and his wife is different in the sense of we're talking about culture. And I think that's one of the things that we failed in our culture, African American culture. These are things that it's our inability to do because they have not necessarily been taught. And I'm not like trying to give an excuse.
No,
I'm
that's
just
not
saying,
excuse.
I'm
That's
actually casting blame.
Yeah,
Like,
that's true.
That's, for you, and your wife, it's like, well, you're having these conversations because coming African American man, Caucasian woman, instantly society is like, it's a problem. She comes from the country. You're a city boy, right? So you're forced to have that conversation in the sense of how everyone is going to look at it. Wherefore, in our culture, just as in an African American relationship of two people courting, 9 times out of 10, that's never going to happen because you got a young man or a man, right, who has a deficit already because there is no father, so he doesn't know how he's a man. He doesn't know what things are supposed to be done, so he has his mother that is teaching him, but she's actually teaching him for what she wants, not what he's supposed to be. So then if you have a female who is in a single parent home where her mother, 9 times out of 10, let's backtrack, look at the mom. The mom is teaching her daughter what she wants her to be only because she was scarred. So you have two people now that find each other that are both completely broken, and then if we're gonna throw God in the mix of that, watch this. I'm not saying I'm definitely right, but I'm saying you're gonna throw God in the mix of that. you got a real hill to climb because you're gonna try to put God and say, well, this is what God is. Well, so now we got to tear down everything. When we talked the other day, Pastor, about the whole concept, when you helped me understand rebuild and reposition. Now that's a rebuild because now both of these people have to.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? Like.
So tell them, because I don't think that the context real quick.
The context around rebuilding.
But he said you have to start over. And I said that in order to start over, which means you're going to get to the same result. Rebuilding is you learn from what didn't work, and then you're rebuilding to a new future with that new person, that new spouse. Because I'm not, if I got a divorce, I'm not going to go make the same mistakes.
Right.
I'm going to change my behavior so I can get a different result on what I believed in my experience that did not work.
Right.
However, I think having a 16-year-old son, he has a 2-parent home, and I'm hoping and I'm praying that he has a Lavelle type of story to where he knows up front these are things you need to be thinking about. These are the decisions that you need to make, because I don't want him to be a part of that percentage. I want him to have a healthy life. I came from a single parent home. I didn't think that I had father issues until I got married, and my father did not get to walk me down the aisle, but my brother did. So up until this point, my mother never tried to be a man to me. I had uncles. I did have my uncles, but it did sting not having my father walk me down the aisle.
And I think that's super multifaceted too when you talk about that, to both points, because Black culture, which is, to me, is a byproduct of slavery. You're talking to keep secrets within your family.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So you have all these secrets, and when you're partnering with another person, realistically they should know those secrets too, because that affects you.
Right.
And that's why if you ever, like, from a dating scene, want to either scare somebody or have one of the best conversations you've ever had, when y'all first have y'all first conversation about, as far as like goals and alignment, and if your core values don't match, it doesn't even matter. You don't need to continue. But as far as like things you want, but if you want to like see if that person is really all in, because it's easy for somebody to be like, yeah, like I really like you, like, you know, blah 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 blah. Ask them, tell me something you've never told anybody else, and see what they say. They could lie.
And this is on the first date?
Yeah, either you're gonna scare them or you're gonna get to it. Nobody has time to waste.
But see, he comes.
Because-
He hold on. But see, you got to come from.
There's a reason behind him saying that, though.
But you have to come from the point of, are you dating to marry, or are you
Yeah.
just having fun? If you're dating to marry, that, like he is saying, you eliminate the pool. You shrinking, you getting down to what you're really looking for. And your point is if you can really be honest with me. So
When you ask that question, does she know your intent
That's
is
it.
to marry her?
Because you make your
can't
intentions
just-
known.
I'm not just
Yeah.
gonna tell you my
Right,
business.
I'm not.
If we just having fun, like, I ain't gonna even answer that question. Let's finish this food. We'll do what we gonna do. Whatever that is for anybody. But if it's like intentional, it's like, yo, like,
We going to pray?
tell
What we
tell
going
me
to do? We
something.
ain't going to do nothing.
Focus, bring it back in. Bring it back in.
But
Come with me on this ride.
Hold on, you got to bring it back in, because I know y'all are visitors on our podcast. But some of the ground rules are that everybody is not a Christian who listens to our podcast. Everybody's not saved, and everybody's not coming from a godly
I
perspective.
understand that.
So you got to be real with stuff.
I mean,
And the conversation is, are we going to pray?
I was joking. It was a joke, but I mean, there's seriousness to it. But
Nah, they ain't gonna pray.
No, I'm be honest. I think that saying that like that, I think is solid though, because some people naturally are, and then there's other people that aren't going to pray. You know what I'm saying?
and there's so much that's culturally wrong today.
That's a whole nother.
But I'm just saying,
Yeah.
even in the dating scene, if we were upfront and honest about, all right, first of all, are you mature enough to date? Let's start there. Number two, do you have any intentions on being married? Because if the answer is no, whether you're male or female, you need to bring that to the table. Number three, before you start having sex and all of those other kind of layers and complications that you put in, because a lot of people who want to be married that are dating in the culture that you're talking about, we normally want to buy a house first. We then want to save money first. We want to do all of these things, but before we get married, and then we have a child together. Now we try. That's the reason why we're dealing with some of the things that we've dealt in our marriage. You know, where our parenting styles and those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
That I think if we court it the right way, you can deal with a lot of the stuff like he said up front.
Yeah, deal with it, and that's my
But if you
dealing with it up front.
If you focusing on marriage, and then my other question is, when people say, "Oh, well, we're waiting to save money, we're waiting to do," why can't y'all just go to the courthouse? If it's really trying to be about marriage, why can't
It's a superficiality of what marriage provides. They want the show.
And can you be by yourself? Because if you break up in a relationship and then you're layering, you meet somebody new, you're basically trying to build a bridge to where you never deal with those issues. So and then you can't be by yourself, because one of my points of your original question of, how do I protect myself? Protecting yourself is being honest with yourself. Can you be by yourself, or are you clingy? You're by yourself right now until you meet the love of your life, or you think he's the love of your life, and then you become clingy. So if he got to go work and he still wants to have his own life, but where you at? Why you at? Why you doing this, that, and the third? So I think it has to do with
I like them type people.
what Kevin is saying is that it's layers of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that if you broke up with somebody, give yourself enough time to detox, reflect,
A
heal.
lot of people don't do that.
A lot of
So-
people
so
don't,
I
because they
think-
get rebounds.
I think
Yes.
what you said, bro, is very intelligent in the sense of
I love what I said.
Well, yes, I mean, yes. Everything you said, I mean, I'm just,
I'm joking.
no, I know. I'm just saying, I'm only saying that from my own experience, though. Like, I went through divorce, but it took me a long time, and I would say even present day, I still have these moments when I'm fluttering where I am. But at the same time, what I'm getting at is that 30-day, 60-day, 90-day, I didn't date myself, but I evaluated myself. So it wasn't 30, 60, 90 days. It took me up 10 years up to this point, just being honest. But I'm okay with that because I finally got to the point where I was able to chart out and go back and make these notes like, oh, okay, my marriage on my end messed up because I have residue of rejection of my father not being in place. But it took me, now at 42, I just had this conversation with my dad 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
But then in having that conversation, then I had to parlay all those answers and then sit with that and then build the courage up to go to my mother and then say, okay, well, this is what was said. So now can you give me your side of the story? Because the reality of it is that that's what was holding me back. But I didn't know that in my marriage, because that's why I go back to saying the whole point of loyalty and betrayal. So if I felt, which I did at that time, you're doing something that I don't like, or you're talking in a way that I don't like, this is rejection to me. You can't be the same person that was at the altar that told me you love me the way you're talking. And I didn't have the wherewithal to know, oh, she's broken too.
I feel like it is more important to be seen than to be loved.
I remember you saying that.
You know what I'm saying? Like love is just like an emotion. Sometimes that is temporary. If you wanted to and tried hard, you can fall in love every couple weeks. But when somebody sees you and sees you for who you are, hey, I love you, and because I love you, I see that there is something about what I said that what is that about? Hey, I'm dealing with rejection, and this is why. I would rather be seen, for somebody to really see me in entirety, see whoever you love in entirety as a product of that, not just like, oh, I love him. That ain't enough. I need to be seen. What you got, Whitney?
What is love, though?
Love is a temporary emotion. It has to be more than just love. There's an
But
element
you
of
don't have-
spirituality. There's
Most people don't know what
you
love
can
is.
love and like.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they use that word very fluently.
Very
like, oh,
loosely.
I love you, or I love this, I love that.
why not? If you were in,
No,
no,
I'm
some
just
people-
saying,
No,
not
I feel
everybody,
you.
but I'm
Well,
just saying.
love is like friendship. That ain't no term I just throw around. Hey, you my friend. No, when I say you my friend, I fucking mean that. Like, not only I'll like kill for you, I'll die with you too. I mean that. So if I call you my friend, that's a privilege. If I tell you I love you, that's a privilege. But
It is.
love, if you made up your mind, like you could really, because it is just strictly an emotion, you could love somebody every week.
So is it strictly an emotional thing, or is it an action?
It's an action thing.
It's an action thing too,
Because
and we only view love in
because-
one way here. There's levels. There's transcendent love. That's different.
The reality is, in the basis of a relationship, if you say you love a person, then they ought to be able to see it. Like,
I feel like it's an action word.
well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's the small little details. Like, just okay. We used a movie example. What was that? Boomerang, bro. Remember? And Eddie Murphy messed around and went back to Robin Givens that one night, and then he was like, man, I knew I should have done that. And then he was like, how could you say I never loved you? And Holly Berry said, she said, no, if you loved me, you would have brought your ass home last night. No, I wasn't gonna say it. You thought I said it?
I was like,
He's left it out.
I'm doing good, see you fast.
I ain't fast or something.
But yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that, because I think that you used to think I was crazy when I said that. Because I love you means absolutely nothing to me. Because it is an action verb, and you have to show the action behind it. And my biggest equation, I say it all the time, I tell people, so I'll get this chair and say, Chair, I love you. Chair, I love you so much. I'll do anything for you. Chair, you're so beautiful. What is that? What is that? It means nothing whatsoever at all. But, to my wife's point, if I'm always making sure that there's gas in your car, the snow is off your car, you know, you got everything that you need. One of those things where the funny part is, I was thinking about it when you was watching TV and coming up in our generation, the man always ate, got the big piece of chicken and all this other stuff. Real love when you're in a family is making sure your family is taken care of first, and you as a man is not eating. But the trick to that is that when you married and you got a spouse, is both of y'all should make sure the house, the kids have eaten, and y'all together take what's left.
Yeah.
And I think that part gets left out a lot all the time. So that's some of the things that you gotta look at when it comes to love. So.
I think it's a competition in serving, actuality. I mean, as far as if you make it a playful game, in a sense, like, it's really trying to outserve each other.
That's what we have.
But most people don't like that word.
Yeah, we learned that in pre-marital counseling. That if I give you more and do more and focus on giving and doing, you have nothing but to do the same to me. So we just hit our 10-year anniversary, and
I can't say that.
and
And I ain't killed them yet. I'm gonna say that one day.
but just I asked
Or
Stefan,
you can kill him first.
I don't know. We're gonna talk about
what we
10.
learned in the 10 years, and for me, it's truly humility. Because and I know it sounds cliche, but it's the truth though. Like you learn to love your person, and I think most recently when he wasn't feeling well, that was a shocker for me. You know, like, okay, Lord, what's happening here? I know you didn't give me the 41 that you're gonna take my husband away.
Right.
So I think it's real life moments that when I say all of this other stuff, you can work yourself through, because it's like you said, it's your best friend. You know, I don't stay mad at Stefan longer than 5 to 7 minutes, because I'm like, you want to go watch the show? And he'd be like, no, girl, I'm still mad at you. But I'm like, hey, we're not mad anymore.
Well, you know, the old people say you're never supposed to go to bed angry.
You
with each
should
other.
not, because you
That's
know,
what
he
you
may
do.
get lucky if you don't go to bed mad.
That must sound like face. Oh wait, in your terms, after dinner we're gonna do whatever we're supposed to do and call it a day.
Said
See? We're gonna pray for you.
So I think Fred brought up a wonderful topic that's a little controversial, but I honestly agree with you wholeheartedly when you talked about premarital sex. Now, if you asked me 2 weeks ago, 2 months ago, I'll tell you, I ain't believing buying a cow without tasting the milk. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean,
Hey, you
But-
can't stand the biscuit with a pepper.
But
goes on both ends.
but I agree with what Fred said, because when you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And I think that causes a lot of problems once you get into relationships, because to your point, SWV did this, you can't do it while you don't know how to do it, and y'all got
You
your
know,
own,
held to a certain standard.
and held to a certain standard, and you just, your mind's not wrapped around it. So that's something that you gotta talk, but then it's just like, how realistic is that? We gotta live an example.
I think it's really realistic now of what all is going on in the world today. I think it's realistic for you not to be being intimate with somebody because you got soul ties you got soul ties, and then and my philosophy is that's gonna be part of our counseling. Did y'all go get tested together? If y'all can't have those uncomfortable conversations, there's no reason why you all should be doing things that you can't restrain from. That can be a short-term decision can have a long-term impact not only on you all but also those that are closest to you. So I think that we should start individually being the examples of, being a better person, dating differently, so we can set that tone, as even for our families. Like you said, as a family, we've taught to sweep things under the rug. Don't air your dirty laundry. But because I ain't aired my dirty laundry in 30 to 40 years, I'm dealing with generational curses that has impacted my family, my workplace, my this. So I have to air my dirty laundry and tell my child, if you got some issues or something's a deal breaker, say it up front. Because what you see right now in your eyes, that she may look good today, but if that's a deal breaker, that look gonna wear off.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me what your stuff is now, and I think that's how we have to set our children up, because they are the next generation for those of us who have kids. But even folks, single folks.
Most of the younger generation are going to be so lost because of social media.
Mm-hmm.
And to do not having the premarital sex, they don't really, that's not taught in the homes anymore.
Take two to tango.
Right.
We all agree, the two pastors, we going to the club. We all agree.
I don't know.
Look, Fred ain't going either. That side of the room, they ain't going. This side of the room,
We going to Bible study.
they going about. Kev, you going with me?
Yeah, we about to
I'm going.
You going?
I'm going.
Kev already, he put his intentions out there. I don't know if y'all heard it. He said we bottle pop.
Whitney the bartender.
You better say it. Come on now.
Does that mean?
I'm gonna buy you a drink.
Does that mean, because we all agree that we going out to this club, Kev done said he buying the bottles, Whitney said she bartending, does that mean that I'm agreeing to get drunk?
No.
No. So because I agree to lay down with you does not mean I agree to have a chat with you. It's a possibility. It's always a possibility.
But you shouldn't be laying down, because that's a possibility that you come up, that you may be drunk and that you can't pull and pray. And
But
part of the pride.
that's how I got closed her ears.
No.
You about to pull and pray, but when she feel what's going on and she lock them legs and keep you there.
Come on down, Zion. Huh?
It's called a protection.
What?
Bam goes back to my point of why you should know up front when you're dating on what the intentions are. If you are dating just to have fun, both parties have to take the accountability that a child may come out of this, and that you now have to co-parent, whether y'all like each other or not, whether it was a one night stand. No, it wasn't just a one night, because anything is possible to happen. But if you're dating to marry, that is not going to happen.
Be careful.
We got to quit being older than that.
No, I'm not being. But hold on, Stefan.
Because everybody I laid down with, I was not dating.
Okay, but hold on. That's what
I think that's what
several times.
Bing, bing. What I'm saying is that's what my whole point is. That we should stop dating to just get laid. Because what's happening is that there are children now who are involved, and the statistics show, because I'll pull it up, statistics show that we're bringing babies into this world where the mother now hates the father because he didn't have any intention to have a child with her, but he laid down with her. Now this baby is here, and the son or the daughter doesn't understand, because they're dealing with rejection. They don't understand why the mother or the father don't love them, or why they don't come around, or why, all these questions, and it all had to do with the two parents who should, if y'all weren't gonna do it, y'all shouldn't be doing it in the first place.
So let me ask you.
So hold on, let me finish my point. Boom, is that it's not
That's
just.
not how the homework.
But here's my.
Hold on.
Here's my other point. It's not being holy, But what I will say from a spiritual perspective, because the world is so jacked up it is today, that's why the Bible does say is to be not conformed to the things of this world, because we see when we're conformed what happens. So at some point, those of us got to understand. Now when you're going into a relationship, hey, what's your intentions? Are you planning on do you want to get married? No, I just want to get later. You gonna still stay in that up to you.
Stay right there, sis.
Okay.
I want to say this real quick, just so we're clear out in YouTube and everything. So this vision of for the brothers, I'm glad that you guys are here giving perspective. The point of the vision from this mind is that there are good brothers who words are not being heard. So when I say something about and forgive me, sis, and my sister, y'all saying, when I said the word trap, it's not to be negative, but at the same time, the reason that word means the way it means to you, it has a different meaning for me, is because, well, you know the story. I was never heard. Then my name was drugged across this city in lies as if I wasn't being a father to a child. It ended up not being mine. So
and nobody apologized.
And nobody
nobody
say
yeah.
even the people that were supposed to be my friends.
At what point do you just forgive them? Forgive them. It's for your own good.
You should have been 2 weeks ago.
But I'm saying, for your own good, if they never come back to apologize.
Well, so this is the thing. It's not even about that person.
I don't care who it is.
But that's what I'm saying. It's all about,
the time.
right, but what I'm saying is it's all about perspective, because the reality of it is, it's not even about the apology for me. It's about the fact that when I would speak up and say my side, we ain't trying to hear that. Because the lie is what dominated everything.
But
is what I'm saying. So that's
what they want to believe.
Right, but what I'm saying is, what I'm getting at is that when I talk about four good brothers in the sense of my mind or where this pod derived from, is because in reality today, the woman's perspective is always put first. The good brother is always put on the back burner. And if we're going to call a spade, I'm okay with exposing my life all the way through.
I don't feel like the good brother, I say the good people, because there's good women out there who get put to the back burner as well.
But how many men is what I'm saying? Because reality of it is that we're first.
Yeah, if you're a good woman or if you're trash, people are more willing to hear your side first.
For instance, pastors talking about constantly where are the men inside the church, right? There's nothing wrong with that. All those things are right. So men have to step up. But reality of it is do we ever talk about the fact, which pastor has, but I'm saying, but how many other times do we hear other people from a woman's perspective, right? Whether it's a pastor or not, or a counselor, drawn the attention to men being put down, talked about all these different things.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, okay, so then it's like, and again, I say the word trap, right? Not just my sister, but it's other women out here, and y'all forgive me, but you're gonna get upset about that, but you're never looking at my perspective, because we got the Beyoncés of the world, you know what I'm saying? We got the Me Too movements of the world. All these things is cool, and I'm not knocking all that. But where does the good man, who actually is a good man, not the dog, not the drug dealer, I run through the window. I'm talking about just the average Joe dude,
and all of them need their story told to add perspective.
So that's where I was gonna go, because there are some, again, due to culture and because of social media, that the word trap may trigger some ball players, some athletes, some celebrities, because the woman went into the intention of, let me secure the bag,
we ain't gonna talk about
and I'm gonna have the baby, so I can be set for life.
Yeah.
So she goes in, he's going in with a good time, like, hey, I'm living life. I got the money to prove it and do whatever I want to do. But she's going in with the intention of, oh, I'm getting ready to secure this bag, so I don't have to work a day in my life. So I think I do believe both perspective. I think
Right.
that there's good women out there.
It is.
And I do believe that there's a lot of good women. We do have the platform first. But I also think that with men, there are some women, and I think it's a documentary that says that there are some women in different cultures who are trained for that athlete. So for my son being an athlete, I'm going to train him to identify her. Because if she's just dating my son just for what he has and what he's doing, I want him to date somebody for him. Because what happens if he gets hurt and he can no longer play football?
Right.
What happens when the money goes away? Will she still love him in the same degree? So I think the word trap, when I hear him saying it, I think about those men and women who have been trapped, or men who date successful women and then have no intention on loving them, but then they want to get paid.
Right. So we clear. We know, sis, between brother and sister, we know where each other stand. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I got you.
I just want to make sure that that's out there, because I don't think we've ever actually said that, Stefan, on the pod, as to, in the sense of why that name is the way it is.
No, I got you.
You know what I'm saying?
Did we? What's up? Did we get to our wrap up question? Did we answer the question?
We
It be like that sometime, y'all.
we're talking about how you protect yourself, how do you protect your feelings, how you protect your emotions in the midst of dating.
I got a list. You go
In the
first.
midst of dating,
Right, because
or
this
is that the second part of the unforgivable? Well, I call it unforgettable things, because
both.
for me, everything is forgivable, because
But the forgetting part is
the
different.
relationship I'm supposed to have with Christ.
You ain't by yourself.
I can't ask you to forgive me when I can't forgive somebody else. But it's unforgettable because I'm not gonna forget what you did. You're not gonna cross me twice. It's just how I'm gonna deal with you after whatever. Like lying, I'm never gonna trust your word again or believe anything that come out your mouth. I don't even know if your name is what your name is.
So that means the relationship's over there.
It's over.
There it is. Bam.
Because you can't really come back. For me, you can't really come back for that. Because if you love me and you want to protect me and you lie to me, how are you going to protect me? You like, hey, hide over here because they shooting over there, but you send me right into the war zone.
So let me ask you a question. So have you dated somebody and continued on after the first lie?
Baby, did I? Yes, that's how I got burnt. So that's why I was talking about the lie. Benefit of the doubt in history is what kept me there. And trying to do something different from the last one,
I'm gonna tap you.
it kind of... You're not going to tap my head. I'm about to tap you. It kind of kept me trying to prevent the triggers of the last relationship that I had. Like, okay, well, maybe it's a trigger from your past. Like, okay, we're going to try to see if this kind of work. Because it was like, okay, I've been in the house for 45 minutes. Nigga, you only been here for 10. So it's those small white lies that I overlooked that grew. They say once you, a little grain of salt, if you let it keep rolling, it's going to keep up picking stuff. It's going to get bigger and bigger. And then when it just explodes in my face, I can't be like, woe is me, because I saw the signs and I ignored it. So I have to learn from that mistake, trying to do something different from the past. I messed up along the way, trying to avoid the triggers of my past to continue in my present, to kind of disappear in the future. So I have to step back, reevaluate where I went wrong, so I can try not to step in those same booby traps again. That's why I can't forget how it got there.
I agree. I don't think forgiveness is forgetting, because that the forgiveness piece, again, Lavelle alluded to this last week. The forgiveness piece is spiritual maturity. The forgetting piece, that's more neurological. Like you're
that's good 101.
Yeah, you're wired that way. Like you see patterns, you see history. Your brain creates shortcuts around that. Oh, I've seen this before. I'm good. And I think as far as like, I'm coming to you. As far as like you protecting yourself in the midst of that, it's you recognizing those patterns, but also being real with yourself. A lot of people have the tendency, you talked about the grain of salt. You sweep it under the rug, under the welcome mat, and then all of a sudden you tripping over it every day. Recognizing it early, I mean, obviously there's a level of grace with any type of relationship, even friendship, no matter what that looks like. But if it's something like, hey, like we've had this conversation, like not only do I not like it, this is the why I don't like it. And I feel that it's that forgiveness and forgetting piece along with the transparency and conversation. Being unapologetic about what you don't
so
like.
when you
Here's
be
why.
transparent when stuff like that happen and they lash out for you for being transparent in your truth, and this is what my perspective is, then it makes you kind of shut down for the next person.
If they can't respect that truth and they don't respect your truth and validate your feelings, then they're not for you.
The other piece of it is that if you don't forget, and you're in, are we talking about just a relationship period? If I don't forget, what I have seen is that you're gonna bring it, you're gonna continue to bring it up. So I know everybody on the podcast is not spiritual, but from a spiritual perspective, if God remembered everything that you did and held you accountable, how would you be able to get to your purpose? So that's one thing. The second piece of it is, if we're in a marriage and you did something that I said that I forgive you on, but I don't forget, when I get angry, am I going to continuously bring that up? Or if you hurt my feelings or you stole something from me, every time I want to bring that up when you do something. That's why I said, I get the don't forget part, but don't have the forget, don't have the you gonna have it back here, that it may continue to keep coming up. Because I may get to, hold on, let me finish. I may get tired of you saying that. I may get tired of you. Every time if you get mad, you said that I did this. And let's say we're in a relationship. Well, that's a trigger for me. So you're going to bring, when you did this time, this is what happened. At what point, if I forgave myself for doing it, why you keep bringing it up?
What if they don't bring it up?
So is forgiveness also forgetting?
I think at some point, yeah. I mean, because if you're going,
It's not even at some point. Just if in your mind, like flat out, it's forgiveness, forgetting.
Forgetting. Yes, I think it, because it's not. I don't want anything that's going to hinder me from my future in my relationship. That's how I look at it.
So
what part of that? Let me ask you this question: what part of that is self-accountability? Because if you, and this is what we talked about last week. This is where we talked about the continuous line. If you are doing things that brings us back to the place where you did something that was wrong, you don't get to come back and say, "Well, I forgot about it." Because the fact that
That's not what I'm
hold
saying.
on, let me finish. Because in my mind, the fact that you forgot because you chose, and it's not that you forgot, it's really that you bottled it up and you're not really dealing with it.
But that's
the
true.
fact. Hold on, let me finish.
Okay, but
So the fact that we keep on getting back, or you keep on getting back in that situation, is because you haven't really dealt with it. Because if you really dealt with it, you wouldn't do the things that put us back in that situation.
But so what I'm saying is that I'm not. If it's a repeated pattern, yes, you discuss it. But there are some, not in just intimate relationships and friendships, but even in family, where you've done something and your family will bring it up and you're trying to take yourself from this point to get to this point so it doesn't happen again. But they will still bring it up. So what I'm saying, at what point, and it's from people's perspective, just because I don't openly say to you that I'm dealing with this, that doesn't mean that I haven't dealt with it. Because everybody in this room has had something that they dealt with that has been thrown in their face.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't feel good when it's thrown in your face. And you will say, I have said to my family or somebody, why do you keep bringing that up? I'm not that same person that I was then. That's no different than when I was involved with the Ohio Justice Center, where those folks who are getting reintegrated into the world, who have been in jail for whatever reason, that they can't get a job because of what's on their history to something they may have done at 25 and they're 55, or something they've done when they're 17, and it keeps repeating. So what I'm saying is, if it's a repeated pattern, absolutely. But if it's something that's took place that you've repented for, or if you ain't a believer, you forgot about it, I don't know, whatever you did, and you're trying to move forward, people can't keep taking you to that spot. But go ahead.
So what about the people who don't forget, but don't bring it back up.
No, I think that, I mean, yes, if you need
So
to.
for me, when I say I don't forget, that's like me saying, okay, the stove is hot, burnt my hand, gotta heal from it.
Yeah.
I get from it, but then I go back. Oh shoot, I forgot.
No, I'm not.
Oh shoot, like
No, I'm
so
not. I'm
that's
saying,
I'm like you can do something to me, and I won't forget about it, so I know how to move with you. Especially when it comes to family, you have to know how to move accordingly. Like, okay, they lied to me, they kind of burnt me, so I'm gonna kind of stay on the outskirts so I don't get hurt again. So it becomes a defense mechanism to kind of protect and shield yourself from people you can't just cut off, like family. Because friends, you can be like, oh, you want to keep lying to me?
I think part of that is the receiver too. So it's the receipt. So like if like we're in a relationship and you like, oh, I forgive you, I'm not gonna forget this, and I do it again, and I acknowledge like, hey, that's that thing you don't like. Let's have a conversation about it. But as far from a receiver standpoint, there are people who listen to you for ammunition to use.
Yeah.
I think those are two different things.
Right.
When I talk about like not forgetting, I'm not forgetting in a way that I can recognize patterns of behavior.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't like that, I'm good. But there are some people that like, oh, there she go again, there he go again. They're intentionally observing for ammunition, not even to understand.
But
That makes sense?
But
Yeah.
what?
I'm saying, yeah.
What's the difference? Because either way, the person who is, for lack of a better term, committing the crime is still committing the crime. So whether you look at it as I'm looking at it for, boom, I got you, you doing it again, or for me to come back and tell you, hey, you're doing this thing that I really don't like. And when you say this, it upsets me. That's where I'm saying
It's a felony 1 versus a felony 2.
But here's the other thing. That's why I'm saying a person, especially when you're in a relationship with the person, friendship, marriage, dating, whatever that is, that person has to identify with themselves and take ownership over what is happening and what they are doing in that case. That's why you can't always forget. Because I feel like if you forget, they haven't really dealt with it, and it's going to keep on coming back around. And to Whitney's point, you're going to keep on getting burned because there's no accountability.
Yeah, just not forget don't mean we can't have a conversation either.
I think we're all speaking from different perspectives. I'm saying that if it's a pattern, absolutely. But what I'm saying that there are things that people have done
Chair's hot.
that they're not happy about, but it continues to be bought up. So you don't get to condemn me
Yeah.
if me something that I'm delivering myself out of. You don't have the right to condemn me for that.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. There's two different lanes. If it's a pattern, you want to discuss it, and you have the choice if you're going to carry on that relationship, whether it's friend or family. Because if you are an unhealthy family member, I can love you at a distance.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's something that an individual has done and they are have worked themselves through, you don't get to keep bringing that up.
Agreed.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
That's all
We
I'm
saying the
saying.
same thing like we said to them.
We're saying the same thing. It's just it's a different lens.
But it took a conversation
That's
to
what I'm
get
saying.
there.
Right. That's what I'm saying. And that's the whole point. And that's
Yeah.
why, for me, not to take it away from Stefan, but that's the point of Four Good Brothers. Because there's perspectives. We want people to come on here. We want people to send us questions and all those type things, because it forces the conversation. It pushes the conversation. I just told Pastor the other day, there's certain things that I don't feel that I can say across the pulpit if I'm preaching, but I can say it here though.
We got to know how to wrap this up. But you two ladies, one of y'all had notes on your cell phone. You had some notes on a piece of paper. And we was talking about.
No, that's my fault.
We was talking about protecting your. What was it? Y'all done got me all off. all off. They didn't just
How to
got me all
protect
off
yourself,
with it.
right?
How to protect yourself.
Yeah, we answered.
They got notes.
We didn't went past the notes.
Yeah, I'm past.
We
my-
done
You got
one
notes.
of
You
those
got
now.
you got your notes on my phone.
I think I said it. The protecting yourself. I think we all said it as being transparent, up front, not losing yourself in the relationship. Their goals should not be the only goals. I like when you said the business perspective of it is that, and how you use your lived experience of what I want to get this done. These are the goals that we have together, and then what do we have in 3 months, 6 months? That it has to be an ongoing thing to protect yourself and to be honest in the relationship.
Was you finished?
Cause you know you got me on this topic, and I just can't get myself. Cause okay, go ahead.
That's we gonna get there. We gonna get there. We gonna get there. Kev.
I answered that a long time ago. I think so. I think to me, because I know we had this conversation in the middle of that transition. Not forgetting to protect yourself, being spiritually mature to forgive, recognizing patterns of behavior, and being transparent with yourself about what you don't like, and being unapologetic for it, even if it's something that seems trivial. That's something that is important to you.
Yes.
And hey, I don't like that. I don't like that for this reason. This is why. And if that person is willing to be on that journey with you with that, cool.
Mm-hmm.
But if not, I don't like that, and you not validating that, this isn't gonna work. I'm good.
Yeah. I would also just say I think it's important to love yourself enough to dissect yourself. I think in doing that, you actually, for me, me being a person who I believe that I'm very loyal on, not just in a relationship, but just all facets of relationships. Yeah. If I love myself enough to dissect myself, to find out what my flaws are, how to go about handling them, first and foremost, just getting back to the drawing board, first and foremost, having a relationship with God. That's just who I am. But I'm loving that person enough to dissect, go through the different channels of myself to better me. So therefore, I think that shows the respect and the love that I would have for that person, even if I'm not to be with that person, but from whomever that's supposed to be in the future, or even if it's just dealing with that brother or sisterly love, or love to my mother, my father. It shows that respect to them that I'm willing to dive deep into myself, because ultimately, if I don't do that, I start pointing a finger at them, and that's what I don't want to do that, because that's happened too many times before. So,
Machiavelli.
Lavelle is going to say communicate. Communicate. Be honest. Be open. And communicate. The pastor in me is going to say communicate, be honest, pray. I think prayer needs to be the essential piece. Not just for the couple in a relationship, but for yourself individually. Know who you are in Christ, but know who you are as an individual. Regardless of wherever you are in life, you need to know who you are. You need to know what you will accept and what you won't accept.
People don't.
And figure that out.
But can
to
I
a
add one more thing?
degree. Yes, ma'am.
I also think that I did that.
At the wrap up, you can't do that.
Well, I'm gonna do that because I didn't get my wrap up.
Because she is your partner.
She ain't the weed.
So I think, but I also think that, as you're saying about praying, for those, I'm who I am 24/7. So I'm giving you Pastor Mya, I'm giving you Mya. That's who I also think that you're in a relationship, Father, send me who's good for me and what I don't see that I will need in the future. Because that's going to be important, that you may have your list, but because he's so much more bigger than us, he knows what we need. So I think that that's important, to protect yourself. Don't give me just what my eyes see. Give me what my spirit needs.
And that goes with my last point, was you need to be receptive to change. Now, I'm not a big fan of this preacher, but the man has gone on, I don't know if it's glory, but he's gone on. But I am going to say his name, because there's one thing that I do, that I did take with him, and that was Bishop Eddie Long. One thing that he did say that I do appreciate to this day is, when you are in a relationship, your conversation should change. So from day one, I shouldn't be saying the same thing versus year 38. your conversation should change and grow and develop in that time. Pastor Mya said when she was 18, she wasn't doing some of the things that she's doing now. That's how old you are now.
40 will be 41
40.
next month.
And as a spouse, it might have not been maybe the direction where he thought it was going in the marriage, but he had to be receptive to change. And it's not like a crazy change, like, whoa, this is not the person I married. But it's changes in career. It's changes in parenthood. It's changes in hey, we're moving from, we thought we was gonna stay in Cincinnati, but now we're moving to Seattle, Washington. You have to be receptive to change. And those conversations should change the more you develop that relationship. I'm done.
Whitney, close us out on this one. What you got?
Like I'm like,
Please, prayer.
Father God. But for me, like Fred said, to love myself enough to tell somebody no. A lot of people don't have that strength because they want the companionship. So we compromise and we start lying to ourselves about things that we will and won't accept. And then we'll start shifting our list to kind of fit his when he really don't want you because you don't want to be alone. It's not common to be single nowadays. So I have to love myself enough to not even start putting up those wrong defense mechanisms trying to protect myself to ward off the people who are really supposed to be in my life because it seemed like now everybody out to get me. So I just have to learn how to maneuver.
Did you have that epiphany through the handcuff sermon that your
No.
pastor preached? You sure? Because that was a good sermon.
It was a really good one, but
That
catch it on the
wasn't it.
replay, y'all. I gotta plug in where I can.
You didn't get my wrist, I tell you that.
So just to wrap it up, but we want to thank our first guest, our first female guest, just for switching the pod up a little bit, giving us a little different flavor, getting a little more perspective on there. And Fred put it out there multiple times on this pod. This is really a safe place for people to open up, share their experiences, share their opinions. And what we ask for you to do is take this conversation amongst your group of friends and kind of spread everything out. If you like Pastor Mya Miller, you can also check her out
at Chosen Ministries or online at www.chosenministries.co.com. Thank you so much. And come out to my church.
out to the church.
Where you will get
9
real
a.m.
doctrine.
9 a.m.
9 a.m. on
Yeah.
Sunday.
See,
Thank y'all for having us.
Well, y'all welcome. We will have y'all back, maybe collectively, maybe apart, and we'll figure that part out. But until next time, see you.